I'm Greg Moody, and you're watching In Focus.
Welcome to In Focus with Eden Lane.
Hi, I'm Eden Lane. Thanks for joining me for In Focus. We're in the galleries at the Art Data Center for a future episode, but tonight we have a special visit with a Colorado arts journalist who was just inducted to the Heartland Emmys Silver Circle. It's Greg Moody.
In a year that included leaving CBS 4, it was indeed a special recognition for his years of excellence. Here's a highlight from the presentation.
For nearly 40 years in radio, TV, and print, critic at large Greg Moody has told his stories with insight.
This is a danger of live TV news. It had to be covered.
Somewhere deep in the heart of winter, somewhere in the still of the day, somewhere in a back corner of the cold, lives a child's dream of summer.
You expect Barry Fay to be talking about music. You do not expect Barry Fay to be talking about cancer.
Energy. And a wicked sense of humor.
Help me, I'm being eaten by pigs. Horizontal stripes, do they make me look fat?
At 9 News in Denver and at News 4, he has worked with and learned from the very best in the business. He used what he learned to create a unique and wide-ranging beat, welcoming viewers into the joy of words and images, music and art, performance and emotion that they never realized existed in their own hometown. Through the years, critic at large Greg Moody did that with an enthusiasm that echoed the signature line from his weekly entertainment program, Show.
And have some fun. And whatever you do, have some fun. Have some fun.
Which, in the end, was what he felt it was really all about.
Olay.
A short time after the Heartland Emmys, I had a chance to sit down with Greg at the Aurora Fox Studio Theater. We discussed the beginning of his career, how he came to Denver, and what he's working on next. It's really exciting that you get to carve out some time for us today.
It's very exciting for me. I've watched the show. I enjoy your interview style, and I was just hoping that I would get a chance to do it. When I saw you interview Kirk, it was like, oh my God, what is going on?
But the fun thing is that we get to do a lot of the same things. We're often in the same room at the same time, but we rarely get to spend any time together until recently.
Yeah, and it was interesting at the Emmys. It was great to have you at the table because we got to chat. You got to meet my wife Becky, and just had a great time. Just really enjoyed it.
It was really a poignant evening too, not just because I got to interview you on the red carpet for a hot minute, but because you were being saluted for your really wonderful career here in Denver on television. Well, but you started before you got here.
Yeah, I worked in Grand Rapids, Michigan, as
which is over here.
Over here, yeah. Let's see. Well, there. Oh, no. Now I'm all confused. Yeah, it's over on the west side of the state. A friend of mine helped me get in there, and the reason I got in there was they had a reporter job open.
Just a general beat reporter.
Just general beat reporter is what they needed. And it was an all-news radio station when NBC had its news and information service. And I called the news director, and I said, I'd like to apply for this job. And he said, well, you don't have any experience as a reporter. This was a 500-watt radio station. Its signal did not get out of its own parking lot. And I still needed experience. And so out of the blue, I just said, well, do you need a critic? And he said, sure, but I can't pay you anything. I said, that's fine. Just let me use your name to get into movies. So I started doing movies. And then the Grand Rapids Symphony called and said, can he come and review the symphony? Because we've been getting crappy reviews from, the Grand Rapids Press. And I said, sure, I can go do that. And then it was suddenly the Grand Rapids Civic Theater, and then it was the Grand Rapids Civic Ballet, both of whom wished that I had not existed. Grand Rapids Grand Rapids Civic Theater had their production of South Pacific. And it's always bad to have a young critic, a new critic, review your show because new critics tend to take out the hatchets more.
They want to make a name.
They want to make a name, exactly. And for me, seeing South Pacific, it's like Nellie Forbush flaps her arms so much you actually hope she flies away.
Was that actually one of your
Yes.
lines?
And the other line, the one that really got them was, after a while you wish the Japanese would just invade the island. And oh my goodness, they hated my guts.
I can
And they
see
were
why,
and they
yes.
were thrilled that I left town for Milwaukee, where I worked at another all-news radio station.
When you applied for that job originally, was it because you wanted to be a reporter or because you secretly wanted to become a critic and an arts journalist?
All my background was in the arts, but to get my foot in the door, I would just wanted to be a reporter. You know, maybe I could go do some art stories then, but then to land in it, boom, right like that was great. And you know, the things I was able to discover in Grand Rapids, in radio, in Milwaukee, in radio, sort of set me up for everything that was to come later.
And then you made that jump from radio to television.
Radio to newspapers.
To print first.
To print. I was the television and radio columnist and the film critic for the Milwaukee Sentinel for 3.5 years.
Oh my goodness.
And it was great. It was a wonderful job, and it's one of those things where I go, you know, I wish newspapers were still as strong now as they were then, because it was just such a fun thing to do. I had such a wonderful time doing it. And then I went into TV at Channel 6 in Milwaukee.
Right in the Great Lakes area where you started.
Yes, I stayed right there. I was in Milwaukee for about 10 years, and no offense to Milwaukee, but as I was driving down the road one day, scraping the ice off the inside of my Volkswagen windshield, I just said to myself, I don't want to die here.
Yeah.
And the next thing I knew, I was heading for Denver.
What was it that brought you to Denver?
Once again, you know this as well as I do. It's who you know in the business who ties you up with, try out for this job, ask about this job, whatever. And that's happened to me in just about every job. And this one, a friend at Channel 6 in Milwaukee had moved out here with her husband, gotten a job at Channel 9, and said they just lost their arts reporter.
So at the time, KUSA already had an arts reporter.
Yes. And they said, she said, apply for it. So I sent a tape out right away. The news director called me and said, I got your tape, I watched it. It was okay, I'm going to take it up to the general manager and we'll call you in a couple of weeks. And I hung up the phone and I thought to myself, I'm never going to hear another word from them again. 10 minutes later, he called me back. The general manager had loved the stories I did making fun of the newspapers. So that got me my job at Channel 9. I was there for 2 years, and Roger Ogden and Marv Rockford hired me away at Channel 4.
So humor was always a critical component of how you approached your work.
And it still is with everything I do. That's how I go about it.
Now, that initial biting kind of humor, some of that stayed with you, but it hasn't really been your hallmark. You haven't been mean for the sake of being mean.
Well, what I've discovered over the years, when you are mean for the sake of being mean, you hurt a lot of feelings for no particular reason, just so you look better. And I found the best thing to do now, anyway, is to more make fun of myself. You know, make me the butt of the joke. And that works out pretty well, actually. And so things can still be funny, but say you're doing an arts piece, and everybody's talking about, oh, this is, look at the art, look at the style and the brushstrokes and everything. Greg, what do you think about this? And I point at a window in a building in a distant landscape and said, I wonder what's going on inside that window. And it's that sort of thing that has just puts a little spin on it, a little twist, and has really worked for me. And nobody walks, you can criticize and you can make fun of things, but nobody walks away really hurt. Yeah. And they sometimes even say that was good constructive criticism. So
what does that mean when you say constructive criticism? What does it mean to you?
What it means to me is, say you've done a piece and someone comes up to me and said, I really liked what you did. I wish you had added this element that maybe you didn't think of. I wish you had done this just a bit differently. That is constructive criticism. The destructive criticism is, I wish Nellie Forbush would just fly away. That's just going for the throat.
Was there an incident that caused you to learn that lesson as a journalist, to not take that first approach?
I made fun of a friend of mine who was an anchor on the air while she was anchoring. And it took us about close to a year to repair that. And that was the moment I really went, you've got to watch what you say. Don't fully engage your brain before putting your mouth into gear. And I've just been known to do that. You just sit there and somebody tosses out a line or something happens, you react to it, and then all of a sudden you go, I really wish I hadn't done that. I really wish I hadn't said that one. So
I think we all take our own time in learning that lesson.
yes, and some people never do.
And not everybody has to learn that lesson in print or on the radio or on television.
Yes. In print, luckily, at least in the past, you had editors who would catch this and say, do you really want to say this about the mayor?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God, maybe not. Maybe not.
So after you got here to Denver and you were working at KUSA, what was the environment like here for an arts journalist at that time, since they'd already had one?
Exceptional. And it was wide open. Go out. Do what you want to do. We want film. We want theater. We want music. One of my first stories was, we're going to send you to Telluride to cover the Telluride Bluegrass Festival live.
Oh,
we're
wow.
going to send you to the State Fair in Pueblo to cover the musical acts live. We want you to do this. We want you, and it was all wide open. And it was
very expensive to do it live at that time.
Yes, it was.
Much more so than now.
Yes, but it was great. It was just great. I explored the state like you can't believe. I was even, they sent me to do stories at Buckskin Joe, the western town down by Canyon City. So it was wonderful. We at that point in time, you got to do everything.
And you kind of had to, because the arts, while they existed everywhere in the state even then, weren't as robust as they are now, or were they?
No, honestly, I don't think they were. They were okay, but there weren't the number of options until you got to Denver. You've always had a lot of theater options, but in terms of the arts and just the various stories, you didn't have so many festivals. You did not have so many events that you could go to and say, look at this, this is a great way to spend your weekend out in the Colorado sunshine and enjoying great music or great dance. I mean, the Bolshoi going to Vail, that was a great thing. And then in Denver, watching the Denver Center grow. It just grew exponentially over the years. We had a couple of shows come in, then a couple of more, then a couple of more, and the shows got bigger. And then suddenly, they were starting tours here.
Yeah.
And that grew. And, the Buell came on board, and all of a sudden, you were getting the Lion King here, and then you were getting Sunset Boulevard here. The Sunset Boulevard, that was the whole shooting match, not the scaled down version.
You're right.
Yeah, so it has really grown in wonderful, wonderful ways.
Since you have this depth of experience covering the arts here in Colorado, even more so than anybody else I can think of, actually, what do you think is the biggest surprise that a viewer would have in what your job is, or what that role of an arts journalist is? What do you think they don't understand about what it is you do?
Well, you could always say everything after a while becomes a job. And you're just, one night you're slogging along toward the Buell or toward the Ellie or toward the Vintage Theater or the Avenue Theater, and you're just going, oh God, I just want to be home with my feet up, drinking a glass of scotch.
It's not as glamorous as we think it is.
But the thing is, you go and you look at it honestly, when you're awake, when you're not tired, and you go, this is one of the greatest jobs in the universe.
agree.
This is one of the 10 great jobs in the universe. How can you think any other way about it? You get to go out and meet artists and see their work, see them on stage, see them on the their art on the wall, listen to them, view them on a big screen, and then you get to talk about it.
Sometimes you get to talk to them too.
And sometimes you get to talk to them. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing, but
But even with all of that, there are some nights you'd rather be at home on the couch with your dogs and your wife.
Yes, and just drinking that scotch happily. And now, strangely enough, I have a lot more of those nights than I used to have, and I go, I wish I was out slogging my way over to the Avenue Theater, or the Vintage Theater, or the Denver Center or something.
But you haven't stopped covering the arts.
No, I haven't.
Tell me about that.
Since my contract was not renewed at Channel 4, we've had some discussions, and I've started freelancing for them.
What does that mean?
That means that I come in and I work a day on a specific story for a set amount of money.
And so
then
you're still doing it for them.
I'm still doing it for them.
But do you have other outlets as well?
Yeah, so I have my blogs, and I have things that I'm doing there. I've worked for Root Sports over the last few months.
I also know that you're doing something else beside covering the arts and now sports. You're taking that leap that so many journalists say they're going to write their novel or write a play.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough to see one of the very first readings of your play. Tell me a little bit about that project.
Well, it started out as something that just popped into my mind. And this was before, this was while I was still working full time for Channel 4. And I just started working on it, and it's called Little Catholic Boy, and it's about growing up Catholic, and it was supposed to be a funny one-man show. I sent it off to my writing partner in Milwaukee, and she read it and sent it back and said, "This needs nuns." And so I added
a very common note for plays.
A very common note.
We need to
Edward
add some
Albee got
nuns.
that all the time. So did Tennessee Williams. But I added the nuns as sort of a Greek chorus in it. And it just started growing from there, and that was one of the keys. And so we've had 2 readings of it now. You saw the first one. You haven't told me what you thought about it.
No, I haven't, but I did stay through the whole thing and
You
stay
did.
afterwards.
You did, and you stayed after, which I consider a good sign.
Yes.
And then we had a second reading last Monday, which was supposed to be for producers. But then
Like a backers reading?
A backers reading, and then none of the backers showed up. So, but we did the reading, and there was a director from LA in the audience. And we had a meeting with him afterwards. And he said, there's a lot here. There's a lot here, but there's a lot you have to change. And which is one of the things I understand about writing, because writing is not just writing. Writing is more rewriting. And so you keep rewriting.
If it's never done, they just make you stop rewriting.
Yes, they make you stop rewriting. If you're lucky, if you're good enough, and I'm not saying I am, there is a point to stop rewriting, because when you rewrite one more time, you're going to take something important out. You're going to cut into the lean rather than the fat. But
well, now that you're an artist as well as an arts journalist, because that really is a line that not everyone has the courage to cross after so many years of making your reputation covering the arts. How is that experience of being an arts journalist informing your work as a playwright, or is it?
At this point, it really hasn't. The constructive criticism I got last Monday, the directions to take for rewriting, those, I learned a great deal from that, because the thing is, I had made the piece so personal that...
It was almost a memoir.
Oh, yes, and it was losing its commercial appeal. So I have to back off on that. I have to add new stuff. He gave me some great ideas on places to add things. So we were very excited about it. He's talking about it. He would like to see the rewrites with the potential of doing a company in LA.
Wow.
So, and that's like, oh gosh, really? Oh boy, okay. Sure, I'll go up and rewrite it right now. I have no idea. How do I start this? What do I do? You know, last week when I was working on it, it was, I know exactly what to do with this. Now I have no idea.
How
So
does
I'm
that feel?
exciting and frightening at the same time. I'm absolutely petrified, but I can't wait to get started. And it's like the sheet, it's not a blank sheet this time.
Right.
All the pieces are there. I just have to rearrange them, you know, replace the stuff that doesn't work, and somehow bring it all around to a new point where people walk out and they go, that was great. I enjoyed that. I had a great time. And then they go back and gamble and drink in Las Vegas, you know. Yeah, let's get into a casino someplace.
So if that's the next step, and you're saying it's frightening and exciting at the same time, well, of course we see what's exciting about it.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it frightening for you?
Failure. I have always been afraid of falling flat on my face. Now, it doesn't mean I haven't fallen flat on my face.
You could not have had the career you've had without having
Exactly.
fallen at least once or twice.
Oh yes, I've fallen many times flat on my face, but I am always afraid of failure. So I push myself harder and harder and harder to avoid that. Now I can't say I've been doing that, you know, for the past few months, you know, as I'm trying to, you know, re-examine where I'm going in my life.
Yeah.
But with the play now, and with the criticism we've had and the 2 readings and everything, it's like, okay, now's the time to push. Now's the time to get in there and really work on it and take your mornings and just do that, and then go out for interviews in the afternoon and, you know, and try and find a job that's not quite, do you want fries with that? You know?
Not that there's anything wrong with having
Not
that
that
as a
there's
job.
anything wrong with that. Not at all. Not at all. You know, I would be the lousiest greeter at Walmart. Can you imagine? Somebody comes in and says, "Where's the soap?" I go, "How the hell should I?" Over there somewhere, lady.
Has there been, since you've had such a depth of experience in your career as a journalist and so much success and so many people love you, but now that you've had to make this adjustment, this shift in how you manage your day and what you will do with your energy.
You can only watch so many Castle reruns.
Has there been a lesson in that you can articulate for me?
Move.
What do you mean?
Don't sit on the couch. The couch ain't going to get you anywhere. You know, even if you're taking your iPad with its keyboard outside and you're pounding away something on the back porch, you know, move around, walk, pick up the phone, call people, have lunch, go to coffee as
Yes.
we've done,
Yes.
you know, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. But go out and do things. Just do things. And you just never know when something is gonna click. I mean, I went out and had coffee with a friend of mine who works at Root Sports. 3 weeks later, she was calling me and saying, "Hey, do you want to produce the Boulder Boulder?" I had no idea. And so I said, "Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, gosh, I'll do that."
Yeah.
And so for about a month to a month and a half, I was working like crazy. I was all over the place. I was shooting stories. I was writing an hour-long show. I was interviewing people. I was doing this, doing that. I was putting together interviews, you know, looking, you know, trying to learn new editing systems so I could help out in the editing, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then that stopped. And it's like, okay, let's find something else now. And so you start making the phone calls again. You want to go out for coffee? You want to go out for coffee? You want to talk? Do you need anybody over there? You know this.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So, and you're always knocking on doors. That's the life of a freelancer.
I think that's a good lesson, no matter what path you've taken.
Yeah.
Is to move.
Yep.
And I can't wait to see what happens next for your play. What
Thank
was the
you.
name of your play again?
Little Catholic Boy.
If it's going to premiere in Los Angeles, I hope I get to come out and see it.
I hope you do too.
And I hope we see it come back here.
Yeah. I just hope that the rewrites work, And I just hope that it has the life that I think, in creating it, it has the life that I want it to have, the life that I think it deserves.
I wish that for you too.
Okay.
Thanks for making time for me today.
Oh gosh, Eden, it's always my pleasure. You know that.
In addition to his freelance assignments, you can find Greg online at themoodybugle.com. We leave you with highlights from his acceptance speech at the Heartland Emmys.
Please welcome Silver Circle inductee Greg Moody.
Thank you. I am also available for children's parties and bar mitzvahs. Thank you for this great honor, and it is truly an honor. I feel like I've won the lottery tonight, simply because I've had the rare privilege of working with, beside, or competing against all of you. I'd like to thank you, all the stations, all the newsrooms in Grand Rapids, in Milwaukee, and in Denver, in radio, newspapers, and television, for both your friendship and your spirit of competition. You always made me try harder. You always made me better. Yet, none of this would exist without my wife Becky and my daughters Devin and Bryn, who spent many evenings alone when I chased what I thought were my dreams, only to realize that my fondest dreams were right at home where I had left them. I am a very lucky man, and I thank you all.
Remember to join us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Snugglebug.